Hi, Roger Weathering Heights with the VELCO Weather Hazards Outlook, valid the 22nd day of August at noon Friday. And we're looking at the current conditions across the region right now. We have a big area of higher pressure situated off to the northeast of our region. This has been trying to influence parts of northern Vermont. And we have considerable amounts of cloud cover, and we've had periodic showers, a few thunderstorms across areas of New York State, and mostly just rain shower activity across southern Vermont. This is going to be very slow to move out of the region. Call your attention to the warm and very humid conditions. This filled in area here, we're seeing instability or CAPE, convective available potential energy, and we're seeing the very warm temperatures here. And where that collision of the two air masses are, quite a bit of shower and thunderstorm activity producing some flash flooding. There's some places here with over 6 inches, looks like in parts of Illinois back into northwestern Indiana. And this area has been receiving a lot of thunderstorm activity over the past, I'm going to say, 12 to 14 hours. And the other thing we're seeing is a considerable amount of cooler air that's been moving in from the northeast across Vermont and much of New England. A little bit warmer now in the 70s, but we're not expecting anything warm until we get into the weekend. Really no hazards to worry about for utilities. It does look like we're seeing a kind of a decent setup here of nice project weather, especially as we get into Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. Even tomorrow, Saturday, we're looking at conditions to be pretty decent, although can't rule out an isolated shower. And here's a quick look at the North American setup right now. What we've had is this area green showing some light precipitation here up to around a quarter of an inch, and this is going to be on its way out. This is valid tomorrow afternoon. It looks like still an isolated chance for a shower, but in general things are drying out. An area of higher pressure is beginning to build across the northeast United States. As we get into Sunday, it looks like we start to get into a warming trend and really a nice setup for some very, very nice dry weather. This weather system here will be our next cold front. That doesn't look like it gets into the region until along about Thursday of next week. So we have a nice stretch of weather with an area of higher pressure building across the northeast United States. Off to the south and east, you might notice this little deal here. This could be the makings of a tropical cyclone. It could be tropical storm or even hurricane crystal ball. It looks like this being Bermuda out over here. Looks like it's going to be somewhere between Cape Hatteras and Bermuda per the European model, but it's something we're going to have to watch, and I'll get into that in a second. But overall, a lot of dry weather, really no weather hazards for utilities. Now, as high pressure builds across the northeast United States, you might notice this is heat indices. It looks like the area around Montreal, the St. Lawrence Valley, as well as southern parts of New England, along about Tuesday afternoon, could start being reached with an injection of humidity. And we'll look at those dew points here in a second. But it does look like as we get into Wednesday, we're going to see a bit more of that with southern New England, the coastal plains of, for example, Maine and some parts of Vermont and our lower elevations on Wednesday potentially get into heat indices, which will feature some humidity as well as some warmer temperatures, generally in the low to middle 80s, maybe a few upper 80s in some isolated spots. Here's precipitation accumulation for the next 7 days, valid through next Friday. As you can see, there's not a whole lot of precipitation, generally around a quarter inch to potentially a half inch. And the temperature forecast looks like we have warmer than normal temperatures finally moving into the region with a maximum around 9 degrees above normal. These are the maximum for high temperatures, by the way, and 9 degrees above normal looks like southeast of James Bay and north of the St. Lawrence River Valley. And eventually what we're looking at is those warmer temperatures departing the region and setting us up for near normal weather. That would happen, it looks like, later in the week, next week. And here's a look at temperatures set on Montpelier. You can see today's highs only getting into the mid-60s or so. Nighttime lows a little on the cool side, around 50 degrees, but we start to see a warming trend with each successive day getting a little bit warmer. Temperatures closer to 80 degrees as we get into, looks like on Monday. I still think Sunday we could see a few of those as well. And you might notice the GFS is indicating temperatures basically 80 to 85. That will happen by Tuesday and closer to 85 degrees by Wednesday. It looks like even on Thursday we're looking at temperatures around the 85-degree mark. And here's the dew point forecast. You can see dew points in general go up and down here based on the diurnal ranges from daytime to nighttime. So fairly comfortable nights ahead, at least through the weekend. But we start to see an injection of humidity, higher dew point temperatures. If you follow the blue lines here, this is the GFS model, and you can see that eventually we get into that mid-60s realm. By the time we get into Wednesday, that's going to add a little bit to the already warm day, and so heat indices are on the increase. And as we get into Thursday, it looks like we're in that 65 to 70 degree realm, at least per one model of the GFS run. Not anticipating any wind issues, a little bit of a breeze. It looks like on Friday here for some areas, but these winds will be calming on down. Incidentally, these winds out of the southeast and a little bit of downsloping with gusts up around 25 miles per hour in some parts immediately along the western slopes of the Green Mountains. But this is definitely on the decrease as we can look through the rest of the week. Not a whole lot of wind action. GFS Ensemble also showing the same thing. We moderate upward in temperature. You can see a little bit of an increase there. And nighttime lows do moderate back up. This is centered more on Burlington, Champlain Valley. It looks like somewhere along about the 28th or Wednesday, Thursday realm, looks like temperatures start to begin a slow decline. You can see this also at the 850 millibar level. This is approximately the top of Mount Mansfield. Temperatures max out on the 27th, 28th, and looks like a fall. Looks like conditions do become a little bit more unstable as temperatures aloft cool when we maintain a little bit more of that heat, especially on Thursday, out ahead of that cold front. In the tropics, we have a concern here. This is a tropical cyclone in the making. Could be tropical storm Cristobal. Now, this is some of the latest National Hurricane Center tracks, and it looks like it takes it north of the island of Hispaniola and then northeast of the Bahamas and turns it to the right. But we'll have to keep a close eye on this. A later blossoming of this tropical system, let's say if it didn't really get its act together and got into this vicinity of the Bahamas, it could be more problematic. And we could see maybe a blocking area of higher pressure. That would be the same high pressure system that will bring us some dry weather for the early part of next week. It could steer that this tropical system a little bit closer to the coastline along the east coast. Think a la Hurricane Sandy as an example, that with that leftward hook. So we'll be watching that very, very closely, and this is going to be a little bit more problematical from what it looks like right now. But one of the hurricane tracks you might notice takes it up as a Category 1 to the southern part of New Jersey. We're discounting this right now, but this is one of those cases where we're going to have to keep a very, very close eye on this. And in summary, well, we're looking back at the GFS ensemble members and discount this precipitation, but generally not a whole lot going on for the next several days with good project weather for basically Monday, Tuesday, into Wednesday. And the next real issue will be a cold front as it works in toward Thursday of this coming next week. Roger Hill, Wuthering Heights Consulting.